In a rainy day, a girl is infiltrating a building. Meanwhile, our protagonist, Li Jin, woke up. He is a security guard of that place. Then the lights go off. To this, his partner orders go to check the light circuit in the rooftop. Li Jin accepted, but was not happy for that, and was cursing his superior along the way. Meanwhile, a woman named Muzi was gathering energy. When Li Jin arrived to the door, noticed that the door was open, and thought there were thieves. So bravely he opened it to confront them, but noticed Muzi flying in the sky. When she saw him, she was scared and lost control, the same time as a lightning struck her, making her fall unconscious. Li Jin quickly checked if she was okay, but considered leaving her where she was, but after some thought he came back to give her CPR. When he proceeds, a light comes out of Muzi and slapped Li Jin in the face. He tries to apologize and explain that he just tried to help her at the cost of his first kiss. To this, the girl leaves, while noticing that her power is going down. Also, Li Jin cannot sleep because he catches a cold. The next day, Jin noticed that strangely he got sharper senses than usual. Then he sees Muzi far away, who is getting courted by a millionaire. She ignores him coldly. Then a big signal is falling over a girl, but Leganist hurries to save her. And he releases a strange power that destroys the signal and saves the little girl. Then he falls unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a bed with Muzi in front of him. Then Muzi tried to seduce him to get back her powers. Because he stole a part of her powers, Li Jin doesn't understand anything. Then Muzi reveals that she is a cultivator, and that he stole some of her powers when he did CPR to her. But now that he knew the secret, he had only two options: to be eliminated or develop his powers with her. So he chose to live and develop the powers. They were going to the rooftop of the hotel, while Li Jin was surprised by the view. But Muzi said that he could only see the surface, because the rest was filled with darkness, meaning the evilness of the world. Li Jin wonders why they cannot fight it with their power. But Muzi says that it is more difficult than it looks. Already in the rooftop, Muzi asks Jin if he wants to develop his powers in the easy or difficult way. Li Jin chose the easy one, so Muzi told him that he had to jump from the building, because humans develop their powers when they are in danger. But if he failed, he would meet a better life. Before he could say anything, Muzi pushed him to the void. And when Li Jin realizes he is falling, he tries to cast his powers to save himself. Couldn't do anything and accepted his destiny. Then Muzi jumps and reaches him, telling him that now their both lives were in danger. This made Li Jin appear wings to fly and save them both. After that, Muzi also used her powers to appear wings and drive him to the floor, then told him that everything has a price, because the modern cultivate world has little resources, and the cultivators are hungry beasts that live there. That's the reason they live hidden. And if someone found out he was a cultivator, it was going to be his end. Even after that warning, Li Jin had already attracted the attention because another cultivator sensed his energy, so he asked his disciple to find the owner of that power, and to finish him if he was weak. Later they found the suitor, and he tried to punch Li for trying to go out with Muzi, but she slapped him, threatening him to not get close to her lover. Then they go to a cafe where Muzi scolded Li for using an ancient phone, and gives him a new one to talk by messages. Then Li asks her in a seductive way if they could continue that night, and she accepts, and she takes him happily. But somewhere else, another cultivator named Ru Yu was looking for them. She knew that the energy was coming from a man, so she used a technique, creating a profile in a dating application to go out with several guys, and thus check if they have spiritual energy. Although this does not turn out as expected, since she cannot find any single clue about Ligonus. There are quite a few desperate guys, so she thinks that the person she's looking for could be interested in men. Meanwhile, Li was chatting with Muzi, excited because they would see each other that same night. Suddenly, he notices how his roommate fell for Rue's charms as he leaves the room. Walking like a zombie for a date night, worried, Ligonist follows him, in case it was some trap. Upon arriving at the park, the girl realizes that he was not the guy she was looking for, so she punches him away. With a strong blow, Li, who was nearby, uses his powers to save his life. However, he did not count on the fact that he would be seen by the girl. Even though he tries to escape, he is attacked by her and then launches her seductive dance attack. Because of that, He traps the Lee in a kind of trance that makes him fall in love with her. He even asks her to marry him. So Ryo decides to remove the spell. When they reach a quieter place, the girl tells him that his end has come. He realizes that she was a cultivator, but no matter how hard he tries to escape, he is useless. Since Ryo was on another level, and she was about to finish off Legonist, Muzi appears to the rescue. Although at first she misinterprets the situation because she sees Legonist in his underwear to make things worse. Ryu tells her that the Lee proposed to her. In anger, Muzi says that she will deal with him later, because she has to eliminate his lover. Lee feels excited because they are fighting over him, but upon hearing this, the girls give him a tremendous blow. Denying it, then Muzi uses her telepathy to talk to him, warning him not to get into the battle or else he would be eliminated. She reminds him of what she told him in his first training. Turns out that in cultivation, there are different levels of power, and each of them is stronger than the another. The only way to deal with this was with a special weapon, but he would still need a lot of luck to survive a high-level cultivator. Ryo realizes that they were both talking by telepathy, and attacks Muzi. During the fight, Muzi realizes that Ryo was much stronger than her, and that she could not defeat her even if she fought alongside Lee. So she tells him to run away, while she would try to contain her with everything she can. However, shortly after, Muzi receives a beating by Ryo. She asks her how she can sacrifice herself for such a low-level cultivator. But Muzi answers that people like her would not understand it. Offended, Ryo was about to give her the final blow at that moment. Lee appears to intervene and received the entire attack, while Fally in Muzi's arms, and she remembers her mother's words about how the man she marries must be someone capable of sacrificing himself. This awakens the girl's feelings towards the man who was already about to pass on to the afterlife. But this helped him connect with his powers. He had also managed to connect with an ancestor of Muzi, who he thought was the partner of his descendant, so he decided to give him a little of his power by giving him a pearl necklace that would help him gain several levels of power. Then when he wakes up, Lai unleashes an immense amount of power, which could only be obtained after having trained for several years. It was even almost the same level as Ryu's teacher. Thanks to this, the Lai was able to save Muzi. Ryo tries to attack him, but she had no chance against him. The great power that Lai possessed even managed to break his spiritual weapon with a word. When she saw that she was defeated, Ryo decided to leave this life for Falig in her mission. Although she ended up being rescued by Lee, who tells her that she only lost a fight and that she had better run away. This is how the girl leaves filled with tears. Meanwhile, Muzi asks Lee how he managed to obtain so much power, but he said that he would not reveal anything about his past for that reason. He invents a series of lies. Clearly, Muzi does not believe in any of them. For that reason, she forces him to perform an old Lee family technique. For this, they had to give each other a passionate kiss. That way they would share things from their past and cultivate together after doing so. They are transported to a different dimension, where Lai was able to learn about Muzi's past. Here we see how when she was little, her entire clan was eliminated by a mysterious red-haired individual, and she was the only one who managed to survive. Meanwhile, Muzi cannot access Li's memories, since apparently they were blocked by an aura of energy. When Muzi wakes up, she tells Lee everything that had happened with her family. It turns out that the red-haired guy eliminated everything, just to possess his sacred treasure, the black sky. Fortunately, he couldn't achieve it, as the sword was in her hand, although at any moment this villain would go after her, and because of that they must become stronger, since the guy is almost at the level of a god. But Lee says not to worry because he would help her face him, so he gains the appreciation of Muzi, who gives him a kiss on the cheek, which perplexes the boy, who apparently is falling in love. For his part, Muzi says that despite not seeing his memories, she was able to feel the warmth comes from his aura. Then Lee leaves the room, while he returns to school. Lee wonders if all of this is part of his destiny. That's when he remembers the pearls he received from Huntian. However, when he looks for them in his pockets, he realizes that he does not have them. And when arriving to his room, the protagonist is scolded by his partner because he brought a girl. This one is Ryo, who pretends to be his fiancée. Then he asks her what she is doing in that place. Rio, dressed in a provocative way, mentions that she needs a favor from him. This was to stay the night because she has nowhere to go. She even suggests sleeping together. Lee's boss agrees, but Ellie opts to sleep on the floor. The next day, Rio is approached by a large number of boys trying to conquer her. That was the side effect of having used her seductive dance. At that moment, a luxury car appears at full speed, sweeping away one of the girl's suitors. It was Muzi's suitor. He throws a bunch of money to the boy for hospital expenses. Then he goes for Muzi. When she sees him, she notices him and also the presence of Rio. As always, Zhao asks her to go on a date, but Muzi tells him that he needs to be willing to protect her the rest of her life. That's why it's better for him to go with Rio, but she also rejects him, mentioning that the only man she wants is Lee, which makes Muzi very jealous. She doesn't waste time and asks Lee to watch a movie together. Rio isn't far behind, and does the same, starting a fight between both girls, all while they were being watched by Zhao, who lost again. In the night, Lai ends up watching a movie with the two girls, and takes advantage of the fact that they are going through a scary scene to get closer to the Lee. Rio uses her final move, giving Lee a kiss. Muzi tries to do the same, but they end up kissing each other. Once the show is over, they both try to get Lai's jacket because it was raining. Although for fighting, he is thrown down the stairs. The next day, Lee decides to bring a gift to Muzi, clarify Rio's misunderstanding. But he is stopped by Zhao, who accuses him of stealing his wife. So he brought a group of bullies from his school to beat up Lee. The bullies surround him with some bats, and when they were about to beat him, Lee easily distracts them and runs away. While doing so, he stumbles, causing his gift to fall. The girls who coincidentally were in the place rush to defend him, finishing off all the bullies without any problem. While they check that Lee is okay, Zhao laments again about how unfair his luck is. Now calmer, Lai gives his gift to Muzi. It was some chicken gloves. He didn't know about girls, so he thought they liked that. She liked them. Although Rio is leaving, full of sadness here when noticed that she was being watched by her teacher. Muzi's excited by the gift of Lee. It permission from Muzi asking her to be friends, angry. The girl rejects him, mentioning that she could have eliminated them when they met, but Lee's energy was very strong. Despite that, she can't hide her feelings anymore when the boy promises to take care of her, because Muzi so knows what it feels like to be alone in life. Ryu is about to accept the friendship, but in the end she rejects. Somewhere else, a couple of students were very affectionate just when they were about to do their thing. They are interrupted by Ryo's teacher, who scolds them for doing that kind of thing in anger. The boy tries to hit him for scaring them, but the old man grabs him by the neck and finishes him off without any problem. The same happens to the girl. Then he mentions that the advancement of his art has come very quickly, and also that her Ryo fruit is ripening later. The girl is in another dimension where she is received by her master, asks her if she completed the mission he gave her. However, the girl apologizes because she could not do it, because Lee became very powerful, and she could not finish this one off. The old man understands this, and at the same time says that his power is increasing, so he will be able to finish off the cultivators within 10 days. Thanks to that, his power will reach the late stage of core formation, so he asks Ryo that during that period they do not find out about his existence. Said this makes the girl retreat while she does. So she says that if her master finishes his demonic art, not only will the Lee and Muzi would be in danger, but she will also be in danger, because she will be eliminated by her teacher. Later, Lee is looking for Ryu. It turns out that she had summoned him to that place where she appears dressed in a provocative manner. Blushing, Lai tries not to look, but she doesn't help much because she insists so much. Lai tells her that he can't betray Muzi. This makes Ryo angry, and she tries to attack him, all telling him that he won't be able to protect her. Since he can't even handle himself, that's why he asks him to use his spiritual energy against her. However, Lee refuses to fight against a friend. After hearing this, she stops her attack and asks him why he didn't defend himself. Lee responds that his spiritual energy is intended to protect her. Then a jealous Muzi appears and asks Ryo for an explanation. She says that even though she didn't eliminate them, her master would do it soon because he felt his release of spiritual energy. Basically, everyone would be eliminated if they do not join forces. Lee considers that it is not moral for Ryo to go against her teacher, but Muzi says that in the modern world of cultivation, That relationship of teacher and student does not exist. Then Lee asks Ryo how she met her teacher. She says that she used to live in a small town accompanied by her loving parents. Although she was always bullied by the children of the town, since she was a somewhat aggressive girl, that's why she had no friends. Their only friendship was a type of humanoid snake, lived in a cave. It turns out that they met when Ryo found her injured in the forest. From that moment on, she had healed her wounds and brought her food so that she could recover. Although their languages were different, they both got along very well. However, one day things changed when a fortune teller came to town, drawing the attention of all the inhabitants. The guy tries to talk to Ryo, but she ignores him. The inhabitants tell him not to pay attention to her because she is a very strange girl. So the fortune teller approaches her to warn her to stay away from the snake because she will soon make her lose everything she has. Despite the warnings, Ryo decides not to believe the fortune teller's words. When he arrives at the cave, he notices something strange. But before he checks deeply, she hears an explosion in the town. When she arrives, she notices how the town is burning in flames. The culprit was the monster that was destroying all the inhabitants of that place. Ryo tries to look for her parents, but unfortunately find them dead. Fortune teller who was nearby mentions that it is part of destiny. Even though they hurt the spirit of the snake, they were unable to stop it. Ryo blames herself of the whole disaster, so she decides to put an end to the monster. In the cave, she runs into the master, who asks her why she wants to sacrifice herself. In that way, the girl responds that she wants to avenge her people. The old man understands it and mentions that she arrived too late to save them. Now Ryo is the only survivor, since she is not able to kill the monster with a simple stick. The master gives her the fire sword. With this, she would be able to confront her enemy. This is how the girl reaches the snake, which was very badly injured when it seemed that it was trying to attack her. Ryo finishes her up with her sword, but she was simply trying to heal her. After the confrontation, she returns to the old man, who was levitating, believing that he was an immortal, asks him to save his people. But he tells him that it is not possible due to the rules of heaven. However, he offers her to become his student on the path of cultivation. In this way, her heart will no longer feel suffering, because cultivators stop having feelings and feeling pain. After this, Ryo followed the path of cultivation with her master, until one day, she discovered that he used a type of demoniac art to improve his level of cultivation, including his gaze towards her changed, as if she were now his prey. It turns out that the old man's demonic art consists of taking blood to expand the level of cultivation level. For that reason, he seeks to consume the blood of the cultivators because it causes an exponential level advancement. If the old man achieves his goal, he will have the level of a deity, which will make it impossible to defeat him, even if they have artificial weapons. That is why Ryu proposes to stop him before he completes his demonic art. But Lee tells Muzi that it would be better to escape to a distant place. The idea excites Muzi because they will be together. Angry Ryu tells them that her master is capable of finding them anywhere in the world. Then Lee asks Muzi to give him all her spiritual power so he can fight the villain, because he would like to sacrifice himself for her. The romantic atmosphere is again interrupted by Ryo, who reminds them how dangerous the situation is, mentioning that there is a possibility of winning if they work together, and that she is close of being eliminated by her teacher. But Muzi does not trust her, because that could be a trap. Ryo tries to convince them by telling them that her teacher's attitude is quite bad, although she doesn't know the reason for this. She says that in recent years she has been training to reach a new level of cultivation. However, if her teacher continues to get strong so fast, she won't be able to face him, so they have to finish him before he finishes his demonic art. Muzi says that despite that, they can't face him, but Ryu reveals to them that his master's art has a weak point that they can take advantage of if they use another trap. Later, Lee is in Muzi's room, where he thinks about dirty things until he is hit by her, who scolds him for helping Ryo too. That Lee excuses himself by saying that he has to honor his name, which means hero. Muzi understands and accepts to continue with the plan. Lee thinks that he will cultivate in a different way because they are in a hotel here. Muzi tells him that the last time they cultivated together, she saw that he had an energy sphere similar to that of her family. This one was more powerful. Furthermore, it was not the energy that he absorbed from her. This means Lai has a hidden power which they can take advantage of to defeat their enemy. To release this energy, he needs to do it through a spiritual weapon, which is obtained with a blood contract. The bad thing is that these types of spiritual weapons almost always contain spirits of monsters that live in them. In other words, they have their own consciousness, which gives them extraordinary power, which is why it is dangerous to release the spirits, because they can possess the user. Despite this, he lets him know. Muzi, who is willing to take all risks to obtain victory. Then Muzi does not waste time and makes the blood contract at that moment. In this way, Lai's spiritual weapon appears, and apparently it was in the shape of a beautiful waifu. Muzi tells Li that he still cannot summon her for a long time because his cultivation level is low, which is why she disappears after a few seconds. For this reason, he continues to insist that Muzi do the cultivation together. Later, Li summons his spiritual waifu again, but it doesn't work. Then he remembers that Muzi told him that he has to concentrate a lot. The next day, remembers the talk he had with Ryo. Suddenly he runs Zhao, who keeps insisting that he had to give him back. Muzi, due to the denials from Li, the boy orders 2 cultivators to attack him, but they are stopped by the girls, who greatly surpass him in power. In any case, they decide to take advantage of the moment to train, although they are too confident and end up getting caught. In anger, Li intervenes in the fight using his spiritual power, but he is soon neutralized. The cultivators ask the girls to hand over their spiritual swords, but Li tells them not to do it angrily. One of the guys tries to eliminate him, but the boy is defended by his waifu. This time she is summoned long enough to defeat the cultivators and save the girls. Scared, the guys and the Zhao flee in a hurry. Near the area, Ryo's teacher is watching everything that happened, excited because the cultivators become more powerful. Another day, Li meets again with Zhao. He shows his admiration for Li's spiritual waifu, so he asks for a dozen girls with that cosplay at that moment. The girls appear where Muzi warns Xiao not to try anything against Li, which saddens Zhao and leaves crying. Later, the girls observe the spiritual waifu, mentioning that it is a very rare spiritual weapon because it had a conscience. In addition, Li managed to keep it summoned in a single night. Here, Li deduces that all this was thanks to Hun's pearls that Muzi's ancestor gave him, although since he had to keep it a secret, he lies saying that it is a favor from heaven. Meanwhile, Ryu thinks about what name to give the spiritual waifu, although she comes up with a rather unpleasant one. Then, Lai decides to give her like. That means spirit, to which the girl agrees. Apparently she likes everything about her master. After that, Ryo and Muzi are going to train for the future confrontation. Although before, they tell Lai to look for an escape option when the fight gets complicated. Lai agrees with them because he still needs to improve his level of cultivation and combat ability. Luckily, Leek helps him by taking him to another dimension. It was the world inside the Hun Tian pearls. That place was a forest full of luminous flowers. Here, Leek reveals that she was an intelligent weapon spirit made by her original master through the use of 10 types of unique treasures, which transformed her into someone very powerful. However, Leek mentions that for her power to be released will depend on the level of her master. For that reason, Li must reach a high stage of cultivation. Although he says that Li must have some way to release her power without so many complications, to which she responds that it is possible, but if she does that, they may not see each other again, because she basically has to do uncomfortable things to unleash her power, which would cause a big explosion. Li is worried, refusing to let this happen. Li also mentions that something is confusing him, because despite having a spiritual force more powerful than Muzi's, he is still weak against others. Li explains that Li's spiritual energy was given by others. Because of that, he does not know how to handle it, which causes him to get nervous during battles. Fortunately, the girl has a solution. This was to do uncomfortable things to him, which is misinterpreted by Li when she takes off his shirt, but it was only about guiding his spiritual energy by touching his stomach. In this way, we see how Li can master his power more easily. Ling congratulates him for his fast progress, mentioning that in about 5 or 10 years he will be ready, although Lai cannot wait long, so the girl offers to use her spiritual energy to help him. However, having such a strong energy, the process was painful. Despite that, Lai accepts because he considers that everything Muzi and Ryu had to live is more painful. In this way, the boy endures all the pain until the process is finished. Surprisingly, he did not even complain at that moment. They are attacked by a living tree that tries to attack Li. But he manages to eliminate it with its powers. Ling congratulates him, saying that the transfer of power was a success. Now, Li is able to handle her power voluntarily. Then he asks Ling where the living tree came from. Although she doesn't know what to answer, because she doesn't know all the secrets that the pearls hide. We even realize that there was little spiritual energy in the place compared to the past. Suddenly, Li is called by Muzi to start preparing by taking him to a toy store only for adults. Although in the end, it turns out to be cultivation on deck. Here they are received by a woman who asks that they be treated well, so her employees create a good environment to sell them their product. Angry Muzi turns off the music, revealing that they are cultivators and not normal customers when the employees ask her to pay for what she destroyed. She throws them a gold card, then they let her pass so she can talk to her boss. Although Lai has to wait, before leaving, she throws a bag to Li. It was a spiritual stone. This was used as currency in the world of cultivation. One of the workers in that place decides to take advantage of Li, wanting to sell him magical artifacts. This is how she takes him to a warehouse full of objects where he finds a layer of protection, with which he can defend himself from magical attacks. Although Li did not have enough stones to buy it, the seller, who does not want to lose her opportunity, suggests that he bet his stones, comparing it with buying stones from jade stones, which can cost a lot of money. If he is lucky, full of optimism, Li decides to try it for his part. The store manager called Masi checks Muzi's gold card, confirming that it was really a VIP card, which was given to her family. The girl gets to the point and asks for magical treasure of higher value in the store. The guy accepts, although he keeps the card, while he goes for the item. His employee asks him if he will give her the treasure. The guy confirms it, and also reveals that he will soon close his store, because they may be attacked by the red-haired villain back with Lai. The saleswoman tells him to choose between several boxes full of mysterious magical treasures. Then, Li begins to carefully review each box. In the end, he decides to choose an ordinary one by Ling's suggestion, hoping that there will be something valuable. When he opens it, he finds a rusty dagger, called Dragon's Blood. The saleswoman, excited, thinks that she could have taken advantage of it, while Li is disappointed. After this, the boys leave the store, and the saleswoman tells her boss that she was able to make good money with the random boxes. However, when she tells him about the dagger, the guy reveals that it is a very valuable object. Now we see Ryu reporting to her teacher, who asks her if she completed her mission. When he finds out that it was not the case, he asks if she plans to betray him and eliminate him here. The guy reveals that he could see everything. He even disguised himself as a school janitor, where he discovered that he would be betrayed by his student. That triggers a chase between the two of them. Elsewhere, Muzi and Li check the dagger that the protagonist bought. Ling mentions that the weapon contains the soul of a dragon sealed inside. According to legend, an ancient old man killed a red dragon that brought disasters to the world later. He sealed it in that dagger. Apparently, Li was very familiar with the object since her master El Shashai was the one who killed the excited dragon. The dragon against this enemy, but Ling warns him that those types of creatures are hostile, so it would only cause more problems. Although the dagger only seemed like something simple, Ling says that after all, it is some magical treasures, so it must have a special technique. Then Li uses his powers, being able to make duplicates of himself in this way. It would confuse his enemies at that moment. Lai receives a message from Ryu informing him that his master knows everything, so he heads to the meeting place. Although before that, Muzi gives him a magical treasure and makes him promise to return alive. Meanwhile, Ryu was still being chased by her teacher, and he reveals that he planned to eliminate her before her power increases. Otherwise, he would not be able to control her at all. He also says that all this was planned since they met, since he saw her potential and wanted to take advantage of it. Meanwhile, Li and Muzi plan a strategy before fighting. Meanwhile, Ryu is cornered by her master, who is about to take her spiritual energy. Although at that moment, Li appears, hitting him, but he was using his clones to distract the old man. But he does not plan to hold back, so he quickly launches a great attack. Clones and the girls try to attack the enemy, but he protects himself with a barrier that does not allow any attack to pass through. Lai admits that the old man has a very strong barrier, but he plans to use his dagger to break it. The strategy works. He even manages to hurt the confused enemy. The old man wonders what is that dagger, then he decides to attack Lai. However, it was a clone. Apparently it was very difficult to distinguish which one was the real one. Although the Ellie mentions that the technique only lasts 2 hours and 10, he can only create a few clones. Luckily, Lai discovered a special use. Turns out that he can transfer his soul between the clones. This is how he would be able to avoid any injury when he is in danger and confuse his enemy. In the present, the villain manages to detect Li's technique, so he shows the boys his demonic art, which is capable of absorbing their spiritual energy. Everything seemed lost until Li summons Ling, quickly interrupting the power absorption. Then he creates a barrier to protect the boys, and she tells them that he can only stop the old man for 2 hours. Meanwhile, the old man is amazed by the power of the girl, and he realizes that she is a weapon spirit, so she is not able to attack him, only to act as a defense on her part. She tells the boys that they try to escape, but Li and Muzi want to stay fighting. In the end, they are convinced by Ryo, who reminds them that they have no strategy. Later, they manage to hide in the forest, but shortly after, they are found by the old man. Luckily, they had set a trap for him where he is trapped in a magic circle and Ryu attacks him with her flame technique. Apparently the attack takes effect, moment that is used by the rest to launch their attacks. Although they are repelled, the old man stands up as if nothing had happened, book of demonic art where his weaknesses were recorded. All this was false. The truth is that his flame's yang technique did not weaken him, but made him stronger. In the end, the boys were the ones who fell into his trap. Now that his enemy is more strong, they choose to escape, while Ling stops their enemy. Then, he decides to talk to Ryo, telling her the truth about the massacre of her town. 20 years ago, to obtain the core of a snake spirit, the old man tracked down the creature to a town where he found Ryo, who contained a great source of power that she had developed since her birth. So he tried to get her attention by pretending to be a fortune teller. But when he was rejected, he had no choice but to destroy her town while he was disguised as the Komber. The spirit of the snake also made her go crazy. In the end, his plan was successful, and Ryo decided to become her student. That revelation fills the girl with sadness and anger, so she returns to finish off her teacher. However, she is not strong enough to connect an attack on him. That moment, Lai takes the opportunity to throw his dagger furiously. The old man uses a control technique to throw a plane at the Lai, as if that were not enough. This belonged to Zhao, who almost ran out of a parachute to escape from the plane. Here we see Muzi flying closer and takes control of the aircraft, where he decides to use his sky punishment attack, which even absorbs the energy of thunder. But the enemy does not seem worried, but is confident in his power, thinking that he will be able to absorb Muzi's energy. This is how the plane crashes, and the girl looks for the guy to eliminate him. But soon she is hit by one of his attacks. Fortunately, Li was nearby and manages to catch her just at that moment. They are attacked, but the amulet that Muzi gave him saves their lives. Lai takes the opportunity to borrow Muzi's power. Thanks to this, they manage to seriously injure his enemy. Angry at losing his arm, he uses his blood absorption technique. Due to this, the boys' powers are absorbed at high speed. Ling tries to protect them. As it depends on Lai's energy, Lai chooses to save her and decides to use his dagger as his main weapon. But the old man shows him that he can control it to hurt him, implying that he is becoming stronger with his energy, which is why he ends up killing Muzi for having made him lose his arm. Then Lai tries to attack him, but is unable to do so. Determined not to surrender, Lai releases his powers and converts his blood into the dragon's through his dagger. In this way, he corrupts his enemy, is not far behind, and also attacks with everything she can. The battle continues with the old man corrupting and losing his strength. Even so, he does everything he can to attack Lei, but he does not even flinch. In this way, he uses his dagger to pierce the villain before disappearing. He says that his apprentice will surely take revenge on his part. Ryo feels relieved to avenge her people. Li is now in front of Muzi's body, where he reveals that there was always an entity watching them. That being apparently had the shape of a giant eye. He wanted to obtain the pearls of Li, so he proposes to revive Muzi in exchange for them. So the eye accepts, however, mentions that he cannot take the right away, because he is on another dimensional plane, which Lee must find to deliver them to him. Which is why he gives him 3 years of time to do it, otherwise Muzi will go with Jesus Christ again. Lee accepts the conditions, showing his love for the Muzi. Later we see Muzi guide Lee through a forest blindfolded, as she does not want to tell him where he is going. This is how they arrive at a beautiful landscape. Here they sit in front of a huge tree where the girl mentions that she used to come to that place with her mother. She taught her many things, including how to find a good husband, so she asks Lee if he is satisfied with their relationship. At the same time, she proposes to have a wild fight, although it was not what the boy thought. In this way, the story ends with them giving each other a kiss.